Hello and welcome to Talking Trades, the weekly podcast. It's totally weekly that talk about comics so you don't have to. I'm Jamie, I'm a DC fan.
And I'm John, a Marvel nut.
And we are talking about Sabrina the Teenage Witch this week. That's a spooky book, but what's really spooky...
It's Spookvember.
Spookvember. But what's really spooky is that as we are recording this, the presidential election is going on. So by the time you hear this, it'll be over. But hopefully you voted. And if you didn't, shame on you for not voting.
Hopefully there's a winner and there's no fidgy-widginess that's going on.
Fidgy-widginess might be my new favorite term for that. I really like fidgy-widginess a lot. So that's very good. But let's not diddle-daddle. Let's not deal with any fidgy-widginess. Let's just jump right into This Week in Geek.
This Week in Geek.
This Week in Geek, John, we've got a lot of news, a lot of interesting news, a lot of good news for once in the comic book community. Nothing god-awful happened. There's some stuff that's less positive, but a lot of it's good. But the thing that I care the least about is that Jared Leto is going to return in Justice League to play the Joker.
Like
what
is the scope of this project, Jeremy?
Well, apparently it's big enough that they're doing full reshoots and adding characters who weren't in the original.
So, my question is, because we know that the initial plans for Suicide Squad were that it was regarding like a mother box, and it was going to play into Justice League. Is this going forward, assuming that was the case?
I don't know.
And that is what happened?
Maybe.
Even though two different versions of the film were released?
Maybe. Maybe, John. I don't know, dude.
I just don't understand.
I don't get it. All I know is that Greg Miller tweeted out a picture of himself like falling out of his chair when he saw this. And I just don't know why this is happening, but I know that it's happening.
It sure is. It sure is.
And I'm very confused. Something else, though, as far as casting decisions, we have information that Oscar Isaac is cast in the MCU as Moon Knight, which is awesome.
Yes, very exciting.
I
haven't read
Oscar
much
Isaac.
Moon Knight.
I love Moon Knight. Moon Knight's great. Moon Knight is Batman for the DC universe, but with less money. Like, good fighter, good thinker, has
and like
cool
more
Egyptian
Egypt
stuff. Yeah, a lot of cool Egyptian stuff in it. It's very, very cool. I think you'll like Moon Knight. I'm very excited that it's happening.
And like a white costume as opposed to a black and very, very dark gray.
Yes. Like the moon. He looks like the moon.
But like a knight.
But like the Moon Knight.
See, we get it.
See? We understand. Speaking of characters related to Batman, Batwoman, the Javicia Leslie, or Javicia, I'm bad with pronunciation of names, the newest Batwoman revealed her costume. And so a big thing with Batwoman as a character is that she has this long flowing red hair. And they incorporated her black hair, her African-American hair, and they dyed it red, it looks like, and it's there. But like it's definitely a different person, and I love that. And you know they're going to use that in the show as like, you're not Batwoman, who are you? And I'm very interested. And I love that they didn't just like try to make her hide behind the old Batwoman. They gave her a new identity. I think it's a new logo too. It's very cool.
I think it looks great.
Big fan. I'm very happy they didn't make her straighten her hair.
Well.
Yes, I agree. I think the logo is new. I'm glad they didn't make her straighten her hair.
Yes,
or
same.
like make her hair look, like Caucasian hair. I like this a lot better. Like she gets to have her identity. I think that's super cool. Are you excited for a black Batwoman, John?
I'm excited for the representation, and I'm excited for people to be excited. I wasn't particularly into the
the Batwoman show.
The Batwoman. That's the one. I'm sorry.
How dare you confuse those words that sound exactly the same? It was just literally just one letter difference.
I wasn't particularly excited for the Batwoman show to begin with, but I did like what I saw on the Crisis events.
Yeah.
I like that. So I'm excited for people to be excited.
Absolutely. Speaking of black representation in DC things, The Green Lantern HBO Max series is reportedly casting a black woman as the main character. They have confirmed, due to direct notes from the show, that it will not be Sojourner Mullen from Far Sector. However, it doesn't say anything about them taking a lot of inspiration from Joe, which is so sick. Like, perfect. You're bringing in all the people who like the Green Lantern show with all these characters that they like, and then you're going to introduce a brand new character who they haven't named fully. They have like a working name, like a code name for this show, and the code name is, let me get it for you.
Green Harvest.
Bree Jarta. So Bree Jarta is the code name, not the actual name. And, it's not going to be Joe, but, like, it could be something similar. I'm very excited.
That'd be sweet. I think the only reason it's not Joe is because her only arc is not done.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. You can't introduce a character who's you don't know where they're going to go.
But also, how cool would this be if this was the Lantern who gave Joe that modified ring?
Oh, that'd be cool.
The, like, super Wakanda-looking aesthetic and style.
That would be very cool.
That'd be pretty cool.
Very into that.
But the show in general, though, is going to feature all sorts of different... Like, apparently it takes Green Lanterns from different... I don't know if it's timelines, but different, like, arcs and places in time. So, yeah, timelines. And, like, kind of puts them together. So, I'm very interested to see this show.
Yes. Same.
I hope that it is good.
Yes, obviously.
Like, Green Lantern, it's a tough property because it's so steeped in a lot of dense lore. So I think it's difficult to do, especially like a 90-minute, 2-hour movie. But I would like to think, and I'm assuming this main character, it's the, like, she's the lens through which the audience is introduced to all this stuff. And that could definitely work.
This show
I just hope they take it seriously and they don't, like...
Yeah.
I hope they recognize what is good about it and celebrate it instead of making a joke about animated costumes or...
Well, you can make that one joke, but, like, make it once and move on. I am wondering if this may be the HBO Max replacement. I know Raised by Wolves is huge right now. People are really liking that and digging that. Westworld's big. But I'm hoping that this could be the new Game of Thrones. You're taking an IP that people who love it. People who don't necessarily love it don't really know about it. But then if they get into it, they get into it, like with those books. But you could have a bunch of storylines. You could have a bunch of great characters. You could have a bunch of interesting intrigue. You could have deception. You could have love. You could have all this stuff. The Green Lantern has so many opportunities. Also, they're police officers, the universe's protectors. You can deal with racial issues, and you can deal with political issues. Like, this show has an opportunity to be a big deal. It also has the opportunity to be terrible.
The only reason why I think that this won't be the next Game of Thrones is because Game of Thrones is like fantasy setting. Boom. People understand what that is. Green Lantern, there are so many more stairs to understanding what it is as an IP.
That's true.
I would like it to be, and I think in general HBO is just trying to find the next thing, the next Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're willing to take these chances, which is great. So now we get live action Green Lantern property. Hopefully that isn't bad.
Absolutely. Another thing coming out of the DC universe, we have pictures for the Red Hood costume and the Nightwing costume on Titans for next season. Both look really cool, and I'm very excited about. That's all there. It's just something very small, but very excited about both of those things. I need those in my life.
That Red Hood mask looks great.
Yeah, it does, and it already looks kind of like battle damaged. Very excited. I still need to watch all of season 2 of Titans.
I haven't watched an episode of Titans.
You haven't seen any of it, right?
I haven't.
That's okay. You don't have to watch all of it. No big deal. It's good. I think you'll like it, but I also understand that there's
I've seen
only so much time in a day.
I've seen Titans. It's true.
True. The last bit of news that I have here is Why the Last Man has officially begun filming. Why the Last Man, a book we have covered on this podcast, a very good book. It's 10 volumes deep, so it's a lot of issues, all dealing with the eradication of anything with a Y chromosome. And the book takes place you follow Yorick, this guy named Yorick, around the world. There's only has women left in it, and it's a very interesting book. Really enjoyed it. John and I read the first volume on here. I've read all of it. Really big fan. But the cast has come out, and Yorick is going to be played by a man named Ben Schnetzer is the name, and he was in The Book Thief as Max. He was also in Warcraft as Khadgar. He was in Snowden as Gabriel Soul, and Pride as Mark Ashton. I only know him from Book Thief. We have Ashley Romans is going to be playing Agent 355, who is the woman tracking down Yorick in the book. She was in Nosferatu, that new Netflix show about Nosferatu, but it's set in the modern day. She was in Shameless, and she was in I'm Dying Up Here. Don't know of the last one. We have Amber Tamblyn. Amber Tamblyn, you may remember people out there as the girl from Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 1 and 2. So,
what if we don't remember that?
She was also in, I'm looking at things she was in, The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret, which seems like a show you may have watched, John.
Oh, I love Todd Margaret.
She's not Todd's girlfriend, Stephanie Daly.
Django Unchained.
She's in Django Unchained as daughter of a son of a gunfighter. She was
on General Hospital for 6 years.
Holy cow. But most importantly, Sister of the Traveling Pants 1 and 2. We don't know who she's going to be playing on Why the Last Man, but she's going to be in it. That's pretty cool. We also have Marin Ireland, who was
She is going to be playing Marriott Callows.
We have Marin Ireland, who's going to be playing Nora in Why the Last Man. She was, for this podcast, most notably in the second season of The Umbrella Academy as Sissy, who is the mother of, what's the boy's name? She's the one who hangs out with Ellen Page's character the whole season.
Yes, I can't remember the name of the kid.
That's okay. You're very tired. And the last actor I have pulled up here is Elliot Fletcher, who was in Shameless and The Fosters. He will be in Why the Last Man as well. There are other characters who have named. Diane Lane will also be in the show. Olivia Thirlby, and Diana Bang, and Juliana Canfeld are the people who they have listed here. I just pulled up some of them. But that's pretty exciting because this book was very good, and I cannot wait for more representation of this book. I cannot wait to watch this show. It'll be on FX. So that's pretty sweet. John, what news
it's
do
very
you
exciting. I have they put a Into the Spider-Verse suit in Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it is animated similar to the movie.
Ooh.
So that is my very exciting piece of news.
I'm into that.
There are various leaks regarding WandaVision. I haven't read them. I don't want to cover them, but they're out there if you want to search for them.
I will avoid them for right now.
Also, the Batman is set to begin filming.
It's been filming.
Again.
It has been filming for like the last week.
But that's also as England has been shutting down.
It's been in Chicago.
For COVID. Oh, it was in England.
No,
and why do they say as UK begins shutdown? All right, whatever.
They were in Chicago for a while, filming. Like Kevin Smith just missed it, I guess, but they were filming in Chicago recently.
That's cool. And movie, I believe, still 2021 or 2022.
It'll come out eventually. I'd rather everyone be safe. I'm just very excited.
Shooting takes place in both UK and Chicago, so
Beautiful.
it will be filming in UK during UK's lockdown, which is not exactly what's needed, but
hopefully they're safe.
Yep.
I don't even know anymore, man.
I love escapist fiction, which we have this week.
Oh, yes, thank God. Let's just jump. You know what? I'm done talking about this. No more This Week in Geek. No more election stuff. Let's get into this week. Right? We're done. Pull list. Pull list now. Pull list.
Here's your pull list.
This week on the pull list, we are reading Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
By Kelly Thompson, art by Veronica Fish and Andy Fish. Veronica Fish did if not all the covers, most of the covers.
Very excited about this. We needed something fun,
but also spooky,
and I think this book accomplished that, with flying colors.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So this book, this beautiful graphic novel, very fun and interesting. But it starts off with our our titular witch, and she is great, and she has her beautiful little familiar Salem. And in this book, he is a familiar. He is a cat who can talk. He's not like on the show. He's just a cat, which is fine. Totally get that. But I like that he's a cat that talks in this, and he is sassy. And I remember that from the show, and I love it. I'm a big fan.
Well, in this book, they make an allusion to him having been a person. Or like having been fancy back then. Yeah, well, in the show, he was sentenced to a ton of years as a cat.
Really?
Yeah, that's his thing in the show. Is the Witches' Council sentenced him to a bunch of years as a cat.
I didn't know that. That's funny. I thought he was just a sassy cat, and that's funny.
It's okay. It's okay. I loved that show, so we're good to go. Did I read
on that show.
The characters from that show, from this book, and their voices from the original series? Yeah, I did. 100%.
As long as it makes you happy, man.
Did I think other characters were going to be direct parallels from that show, and then they weren't, but that's okay because this was still good? Yeah, that also happened.
So this book starts off with Sabrina and her cat, and she's going to school. Well, she first starts off with her being attacked by a Wendigo, and then it like flashes back Quentin Tarantino style to 13 hours before.
13 hours earlier.
And she's going to school, and she's nervous, and she changes her beautiful white hair into blonde hair, because that's more normal, and her witch aunts are like, here, take a shake, and have a good day, we love you, and she goes off, and she immediately is accosted by the Regina George of this school, and she breaks her phone a little bit, and she drops all her stuff, and who's there to help her? But the beautiful Harvey Kinkle. And Harvey Kinkle is like, hey, I'm incredibly handsome, and she's like, you sure are. I'm also beautiful. And he's like, you sure are. And they're like, we're going to be together forever. Which is cool, because I love that relationship in the show, the original show, and the Netflix show. I think the Harvey Kinkle in the Netflix show is still my favorite Kinkle. He's really fun. I really like that character.
He's really fun. That's the one weak spot I feel of the original show is that Harvey is like super bland.
Yes,
like,
he is.
Super bland.
But to be fair, everyone is also even made more blander being around the three witches of that show who are incredibly charismatic. Melissa Joan Hart and the other two are incredible in that show.
Caroline Rhea, and I can't remember who plays Zelda.
Well, you can look it up while I explain what happens here. So Salem's like, hey, you know, when you dye your hair, I thought you said you were not going to do a lot of spells. And she goes, no. I said I'm going to be more careful with my spells. And she's sitting in her first period class, bored out of her mind with mortal history. And she goes, you know what? I did say I'd be careful, but this is a good idea. She changes all the history books to be way more updated, because the last time they were updated was 1998. And as a teacher in a public school, I can tell you, 1998 is incredibly recent compared to some of the history books that I have seen and taught out of. So good for that school for being progressive.
The answer is Beth Broderick.
Thank you very much. She is in her history class. She walks out of history class, and she sees the girl that knocked her over, the Regina George, the mean girl, accosting a more
meek.
I was going to say nerdy, like just lower on the social scale according to this perceived nonsense.
According to high school norms.
Yeah, lower on the pecking order in high school. She's getting picked on by the mean girl. And Sabrina's like, ugh, this is over here. And immediately she is struck by the handsomeness of someone offering her an apple. And they had this beautiful exchange. And she makes it a point to say that she's very nervous, but her flirting game is on point today. And it is. She's incredibly charismatic with this guy, and he's incredibly charismatic back, and they're both just good-looking people. It's like, oh, my goodness, Sabrina, you got your pick of the litter.
They play incredibly well off each other.
It's pretty great.
Like, I love the whole, I'm trying to find it, where she's like, you know, my family members told me to not accept fruit from weird strangers. He goes, yeah, but where's the fun in that? Or something to that degree.
So I got that right here. I love that part. My aunties always did tell me to be wary of taking fruit goods from snakes or handsome strangers. And he says, but that leaves open a whole world of possibilities that you can take fruit goods from. Handsome non-strangers, handsome snakes, unhandsome strangers. And she says, but why bother with all those when it's quite obvious that you fall into the handsome snake category? And he says, oof, you wound me. And she says, maybe with enough time. It's like, oh my goodness. How good is that dialogue between the two of you? You're adorable. I love it. Just get married.
Did I think he was going to be Harvey's friend from the series, Brad, who was a witch hunter? Yeah, I did.
Wow,
That was
man, you
not
really
nice.
watched that show. I had no idea that even existed.
Loved that show.
Hey, man.
That was my favorite show for at least the 4 years it was on ABC. Like, I loved it to death.
She briefly gives another small spell involving this new guy she met, and his name is Ren. I believe. Ren. And, you know, they're very cute and they flirt. They have to go to gym class, and she's like, ugh, mortal gym class, this is the worst. And she's told to partner up. So she immediately picks the meek girl lower on the social order, and she's like, hey, you want to be my partner? And the girl's like, wait, what? Why? You're, like, cool, and, like, or you're, like, at least going to be higher on the social order than me. Like, why do you... Sabrina's like, I don't know. Like, you seem cool.
And then the mean girl comes by and is like, so you saw how, like, no one wanted to partner with her, right? Like, you saw that, right?
Yeah. And you're going to partner with her, and I already told you to watch your step. And Sabrina's like, I don't care. And so the girl throws a ball right into the other girl's face. And her name is... Her name's Jessa. Jessa is the nerdy girl, and the other girl's name is...
Radka.
Radka's her first name, that's right. Radka, yes. And so Radka throws a ball in Jessa's face, breaking her glasses, or knocking her glasses off. Sabrina does another spell to trip this girl and send her into the mud. They're all called to the principal's office, and Radka's like, blah, 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 she pushed me. And she's like, no one saw that. She did, though, blah, 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 blah. I don't do detention, she says as she leaves. And the principal's like, hey, so you guys also had detention. Just, okay. And Jessa and Sabrina are like, yeah, fine. Because Jessa and Sabrina know, just like, whatever. It's not worth arguing. They literally have to clap erasers at the end of the day, which, like, they don't even use whiteboards or chalkboards anymore. It's like, why? How useless is that? And it's
do you think there was just a box of erasers that needed clapping?
Yes, I do. Or I think they have, like, erasers that specifically get chalky. They go and get chalky for this reason. Because schools are backwards, and everyone who works in them seems to be an idiot. At least in this universe. Hey. So Jessa and Sabrina leave, and Jessa's like, so, like, you don't have to keep being nice to me. She's like, no, like, we're friends. You're cool. And she's like, well, I really appreciate that. I won't forget this. And they get attacked by a Wendigo.
You know,
as you
high
do.
School.
Well, yeah. I was like, wait a second, what? This isn't like a normal thing. And she uses a spell on the Wendigo.
Earlier, she cast a spell on Radka, where the world will see who she is as a real person. Like, her truth will be revealed. And thankfully, that spell is kicking in now with the Wendigo, where it reveals that the Wendigo is actually somehow Radka and Ren.
Yes. And using that spell, they collapse and they separate, and Sabrina's like, She picks them, all three of them, like, she puts them together, like, to try to help them, and they're attacked by a kraken. Like a literal kraken, like a sea-dwelling octopus creature. And she casts a spell on the kraken so that it says, set them free, and the likes of you, the four of us, you cannot see. And so the kraken can no longer see them, so it's like, where'd they go? It says...
I love how, like, angry the kraken looks as it scuttles away.
Well, it says Kriya, and then it says Kriya. Like, where'd they go? I love it. And it scuttles away very angry.
And she goes, right, still in the middle of the woods with 3 unconscious teenagers. It's still weird. How do we get out of this one?
And it's a fair question, Sabrina.
She decides to go with the old, quote unquote, her words, hallucination by gas leak excuse.
Which, you know what? If it works, it works. She convinces everyone that nothing actually happened. And Radka kind of holds back and is like, hey, you're not going to tell my brother or anybody what actually happened, right? Sabrina's like, no, your secret's safe with me. She's like, okay, good, because
that's a big one.
Because I have a heart, too. I'm like a person. And Sabrina's like, no, you're good. She goes back home and is like, hey guys, like, I was attacked by a kraken. And they're like, that's weird. Krakens don't have claws. How'd you get these scratches? She's like, kraken stuff. And they go down into...
Oh, that was the Wendigo.
Well, she doesn't say about the Wendigo.
She
never mentions the Wendigo for a raisin. I don't know what that raisin is. She just keeps her information close to the chest. They go down into their secret witch lair, which is cool. You have to hit a button on a Cersei sign, and then you have to pull a particular book, and then a trapdoor opens, and they go down in this beautiful, like, museum of wizardry and witchcraft. It's very, very cool. They've got, like...
all sorts of tomes and magic artifacts, and a mask looks like Grim Fandango for some reason. It's great.
I didn't even think of that. So Sabrina's down there, and they're like, hey, don't touch anything. She's like, I know. Fine, whatever. And they cast a spell, and the spell puts like a map of the town out. And she's like, whoa, why do you guys have this spell? And she's like, well, we moved to Greendale. They had just moved to Greendale. And she's like, we moved to Greendale for a reason. This is a hub of magical activity. And Sabrina's like, well, that's cool. So is that why there's all these, hot spots pop up? I'm like, yeah, but like, this is normal. If you're saying a Kraken attacked you, there should be a lot more magical activity, and we're not seeing it on this map. So that's very strange. Sabrina's like, interesting. And the next day she goes to school, and she's very tired, but like she mentions the whiplash between my auntie's basement and the fluorescent lights of chem class is severe. And a man, our boy named Alan, smacks into Radka, spilling stuff all over, and she starts yelling at him. And Alan doesn't register that she's there. He can't see her. She's like, oh, wait a second. I cast a spell on that Kraken so that it wouldn't see anybody, or it wouldn't see the four of us. So if he doesn't see Radka, Alan, the kid who just did that, must be the Kraken. So she runs after him, having another beautiful little meet cute moment with Harvey. And she sees Alan, and she casts a spell so that Alan can see her again. Alan kind of trips back. And now Alan is a giant snake creature with feathers. This is like an Incan... So the things we've seen so far are Krakens, we've seen a Wendigo, and now we're seeing like an Incan dragon snake thing. All things that
Worm, I think. WURM.
WYRM?
Be my guess. U.
I've never heard of...
It's like
I've never heard
like
of
a flightless...
WURM. I've heard of worms with a Y.
Maybe. But yeah, worm is like a dragon. It's related to dragons, but no like limbs.
So if you type in worm, you get this really strange MMO.
I believe it. I believe it.
Okay, worms, limbless, wingless dragons on D&D. That's cool. What's a worm with a Y? I'm gonna look this up while we're on the podcast. I don't care. There's a worm versus a worm. Neat. Poetic dragon without. So it's the same thing. A worm with a Y is a poetic dragon, particularly one without legs or wings, while a worm, WURM, is a worm, WORM. So a WORM is more like the underground ones, and the WYRM is like the ones we're seeing here. It's the same thing. It's which dialect you're using. But so far, my point was going to be that we are seeing all things from like American or North American or Central American folklore. That's interesting. Very interesting. The worm creature drags Sabrina into the forest, and she's like, haha, my powers are stronger here. And she casts a spell to make her body really heavy. But here's the thing. If your body's really heavy, you also can't lift your body. So the worm drops her, but she can't move. So she changes that spell to make herself invisible. And John, I don't know about you, but if I use my phone a lot, the battery's going to dry out quicker. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, that's how that works.
Well, ironically... That's how witches work too, I guess, because Sabrina's witch batteries are running low. Her hair turns...
Just this iteration of the IP, yes.
Yes. So her hair turns back to being fully white, not blonde. The worm can see her invisibility spell ends, and she's like, uh-oh, and she sprints off out of the woods. Leaving the woods, she does find a trailer park, and she bangs on the first door she finds, but, oh my gosh, who is inside the trailer? Who lives here? It's Radka and Ren. What? That's crazy. She's a mean girl. I would have thought she lived in a big house. This is definitely subverting my expectations. So she's like, hey, yeah, why are you, and Sabrina's like, hey, something's chasing me. Can I, come in? And she's like, I guess, reluctantly. Lets her in. She's like, hey, you're not telling anybody about this. Just so you know. Sabrina's like, I don't care. I'm not talking about you ever. Ren then walks in and is like, oh, hey, I'm attractive. You're attractive. Do you want to, get a ride home on my bike? She's like, that'd be great, because I'm not walking out there again. And they have a little smooch on the motorcycle or off the motorcycle when he drops her off at home. And that's really cute, John. But she just promised Harvey she'd go on a date this Friday with Harvey after they had a little meet cute in the hallway. Oh no, what's the girl to do?
Also go on your date with Harvey because you're not mutually exclusive after you've kissed one boy one time if you get to go on a date with another boy.
Oh. Oh, that's way simpler. Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, obviously, yeah. But, like, I can imagine being a high schooler, everything is amplified. It's like, everything's the end of the world. Everything's the worst. She's got to deal with that little mental triangle now. And she runs back into the house. She's, like, really bubbly and happy. And Salem's like, this is suspicious. And she goes, you're suspicious. And she runs upstairs. It's super cute. And she busts into the aunt's drawing room, and she's like, I was attacked again, but it's not a big deal. Everything's fine. So, like, there was this snake thing, and it, like, knocked me out, and it dragged me into the woods. So how are you? And they're like, Hilda's pouring Zelda some... Or is it the other way around? Zelda's pouring Hilda.
Hilda is pouring Zelda.
Hilda's pouring Zelda some tea, and it's like overflowing off the cup, off of the saucer, onto the floor. Like they're clearly...
And they silently get up, go back into that room from earlier that was sweet with all the cool stuff, and just immediately start working on stuff.
And they're like, you need to leave.
And she's like, what's going on? She's like, don't worry, it's fine. No, but like, what's happening? Well, it's not magic, and also the adults are going to handle it, so, like, don't worry about it.
It's like, what do you mean it's not magic? Like, seriously, go upstairs. Don't come back down here. And she's like, fine. She goes upstairs, and she showers up, and she's, like, petting Salem. He's like, I am not your service animal. And she's like, yeah, but you're a cat, so, like, be cool. And he's like, fine, you can pet me, but I won't like it. And then he starts to purr and, like, rub against her hand, because it's super cute. Ren texts her, like, hey, you want to go out and, like, ride around the bike? And she's like, teenage angst. I can't. And her aunts are walking off into the
woods armed with lanterns and broomsticks and cloaks.
Yes. The next issue, her aunts still aren't home in the morning. And it's very upsetting. She leaves for school and she's like, hey, Salem, if they come back, let me know. And he goes, you know you said if, right? And she's like, ugh. Yes, I did. I'm freaking out. She walks past a group of people protesting at the mayor's house, and they're like, well, it's the witches and the Kraken. We saw Kraken. And people are like, yeah, it's the witches. And she's like, this is the weird thing that's happening. And she passes Harvey, and Harvey's like, yeah, man, like, Greendale's got a lot of witch stuff. And she's like, oh, really? Tell me about it. And he's like, oh, you like witch stuff? You like scary stuff? She's like, yeah, it's not scary. Like, just normal, but like, yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about the Greendale witch stuff.
I'm like super into that.
And she goes to hear about it, and Harvey's like, coach is like, hey, Kinkle, get your butt over here, run your laps. Like, well, sorry, this interesting plot point's happening, but I gotta go. She's like, no, we gotta talk about this. And she goes into school, and she talks to Jessa, and Jessa's like, oh my god, so you got 2 people who like you, and you kiss one? This is amazing.
I try to have at least 9 crushes at once.
I would literally kill to be in a love triangle. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean. And she's like, no, and I hear you, but like, no, you wouldn't. It's not good. She goes back into the bathroom, and she changes her hair back from white to blonde, and she says it in the mirror. After she checks the bathroom to make sure nobody's there. But she didn't check hard enough, because after she changes her hair with a spell, Radka was there the whole time, watching. And
so now she knows she's a witch, or at least can cast a spell.
Yes. She goes into her chem class late, and her chem teacher's a jerk. And his name's Samson. And he's like, oh, you're late again there, Spellman. And, I don't like that you're late here. I don't like that you Spellmans think you're better than everybody. And she's like, wait a second, what? And he's like, yeah, you go sit your butt down now. Oh, so you know the Spellman. I'm a southern lawyer. I may not be a big city chicken, but he's that's how I'm going to voice him forever, because it's funny. And she's like, that's weird that, like, he knows my family and doesn't like me. I'll have to look into that. Later, at the date. She's on her date with Harvey at the malt shop, which is the most cliche thing ever, you might think. And
well, especially for an Archie Comics property.
Absolutely. And it's brought up to Harvey how cliche this is by Ren. But this is, of course, after Harvey talks all about the witches and stuff like that that's happened in Greendale, and how the reason Greendale exists is because it was neither green nor a dale initially, but the witches came and made it very prosperous. And there's this strange old lady who lives on the edge of town. Her name is Della, and she's one of the original witches. And that's crazy, right? She's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, that's not spooky. He's like, it's kind of spooky. And that's when Ren walks up, like, hey, this is really cliche. And then they start a very cliche toxic masculinity battle over, she's my girl. No, she's my girl. And she's like, that's great. Have your duel at high noon or whatever. I'm leaving. And she takes off because she's not going to deal with the stupid boy stuff. Good for you, Sabrina. Be better than that. That's awesome.
I agree.
She goes home to see that her aunts still haven't come back, and she starts to look around at her aunt's magical stuff. She casts a spell to bring back the map to check out the magical stuff happening in Greendale, and she sees a massive surge in the forest. So she needs to get to that forest. And she's like, and Salem's like, that's great, but if you do, like, there's something there that's magical, it's going to hurt you. Like, what are you going to do? And she's like, leave that to me. I've got the Mask of Malin, the Staff of Hecate, the Valkyrian armor, the Circe's stone, the La Lame de Jean. You do that one.
La Lame de Jean.
La Lame de Jean, and the Manus Maleficus, the Witch's hand, and the Nyx cloak. She got all these items. Essentially, she RPG equips up to go fight a boss. And she throws Circe's stone in, and it explodes, and all the equipment attaches itself to her because she thank God she spec'd for those various classes, and she looks super cool.
She also decides to level up Salem.
Yeah, she does.
So he is like a griffin-ish, like a sphinx-ish. Basically, like a jaguar with wings is like what he becomes. Jaguar or panther.
He looks great.
With wings is what he becomes. Yeah, it's sweet.
And using that, they fly off to the woods to go fight. And they get to the woods, and they find all the witches tied up to posts. And they're like, oh, Sabrina, no. She's like, what? I'm here to help. And they're like, you can't help. And then all the monsters attack. So you've got Kraken, you've got the Minotaur, you've got the Sphinx, you've got a Bigfoot, you got a Griffin, Cerberus. And what's the one that's a lion with a snake's tail?
Chimera,
thank you. There should be a goat head somewhere in there, too, for it to be a full Chimera, but whatever. Because we're not following the canon. She sees all this stuff. She's like, uh-oh. And she attacks the Kraken immediately, which destroys Circe's staff, which is a huge deal to Sam. He's like, that's a really, like, rare thing, right? And she's like, it's fine. It worked.
Yeah, you can't just replace that.
And what she did was she didn't kill the Kraken. She stopped the Kraken and incapacitated it so it turned back into Alan, the boy. And she's like, I wonder if the rest of these creatures are actually children. And she attacks him. And so Salem's like, just kill them. She's like, no, Salem, don't kill them. Incapacitate them so they turn back to being human. And he's like, oh, you're so lame. So she hits the griffin with a sword, turning it back into a kid. Salem takes out Cerberus. She puts on the mask to take out the Chimera, Bigfoot, and she's going to hit other things. And the witches are like, hey, don't worry about the other things. Take out the Minotaur. She's like, okay. She puts on Nyx's cloak, and she attacks the Minotaur. Nyx's cloak makes her invisible, which is super sick. And she attacks the Minotaur, and it turns out it's Professor Samson. This was the most... I was like, this Scooby-Doo frickin' book, man.
Because like an old white guy.
Yeah, it's an old white guy who just got unmasked for being a cool monster. It's super funny. And she attacks the Minotaur, turns back into Professor Samson, and he's like, well, now I would have gotten away with it, too, if it weren't for your meddling kids. But now here's the thing. I did pretty good. And she's like, no, you didn't. You used kids. He's like, well, I lured all the witches out here. I put the witches up.
Well, they didn't think I could do it, but I did it.
And he's like,
checkmate, Miss Spellman.
Also, you're out of all your cool weapons, so you can't take me down. And she's like, yeah, but I'm also a witch, dude. So she casts a very, very powerful spell.
William Sampson III, your power is now unwound, and you are bound. I bind you from doing harm.
And he's like, no! He is now bound from doing any harm or doing anything magical. All the witches are now freed. And they're like, that was really impressive. Did you know that? And she's like, yeah, I try. I'm pretty sick.
Yeah, his whole thing was like, his ancestors were witches, and the council wouldn't allow him on because he wasn't a witch himself. So that's why he did this, was because they were like, no, you can't do it. You have no power.
So he dangerously combined science and magic. And the witch is like, no, that's okay. You can do that. Like, science and magic are very similar. But he was doing it to hurt, to control, which is bad.
Yeah, he was just doing real bad things with it. Okay.
So I like that they acknowledge that magic and science can work together. That's kind of cool. And the witch is like, hey, we're going to, gently wipe everyone's mind. It'll be... It'll be better. They will think it's all a dream, and it'll be okay. What about Samson? She's like, well, you kind of bound him. Like, he can't do anything, which I think opens up for more stuff down the line, which is cool. The next day, she has her just white hair, and she's like, yeah, I'm done dyeing it. And Harvey Kinkle's like, that's cool. Be you. You're cool. And she's like, yeah, I am. And she kisses him, and it's like, oh, so cute. Good for them.
Yeah, because Harvey's like, so, like, do you like him? She's like, yeah, but, like, I also like you.
It's like, I'm going
to
to
decide. I
decide.
think I need to get to know both of you a little bit better.
Like how relationships should work and how, like, people should work. What a concept.
Yeah, which is excellent.
I love it. She talks with Jessa, and Jessa's like, oh my god, I wish that my crush would kiss me like you kiss Harvey. That'd be so great if she kissed me. And this is the first time Jessa's revealing that she is queer, whether that's gay, bisexual, whatever she is, non-binary. She identifies as queer. And Sabrina's like, oh my god, tell me who you're crushing on. She's like, I can't. And she runs off.
What I like here is that Sabrina isn't more or less interested.
It's
because
tell me about your
she
crush.
said the word she. She's just excited. She just wants to know more about Jessa.
Yeah, I love it. I just love how Jessa literally. So at one point, Jessa is like floating with hard eyes. And she's like, "Oh my god, he walked you to school. That's so romantic." And she literally runs off like, "I'll never tell." I think it's so freaking cute. I love Jessa.
It's great.
I hope Jessa's around
amazing.
More. And Harvey's like, "Hey, so I like you," and Sabrina's like, "I like you too." And Ren's like, "Oh, she'll never like me." And
he sees them from afar, and he's just like, "Oh man,
I'm heartbroken.
I missed out."
But he doesn't know that Sabrina's going to give both of them a chance and figure out who she likes better, and that's okay. And she's running at gym, and she's taking a break from running, and the arc, the volume ends with Radka going, "I know exactly what you are, Sabrina Spellman, and if you don't help me, I'm going to tell the whole world." And then next, something wicked is coming in 2020, it says. And that's awesome. It's a great way to end it. Wraps up one arc and then totally leads me into the next arc. I love it.
That's how you do it.
John, what do you think of this book?
I loved it. It was great. It took a lot of design elements from both the shows.
Yes.
Like, Sabrina's character model from this one is very Chilling Adventures. The Ants' character models are very Chilling Adventures, but their mannerisms are very much the original series. Which, I know all this is based on Archie comics and not, the show did not come first, but like...
Still fun to acknowledge both things.
Oops. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was very true to the IP, I feel. And very fun and spooky and neat.
I agree. I loved the art. I loved the story. I loved the... And you mentioned it very briefly, but the fact that the queer character is a character, and they're not the queer character. It's just a character who is queer, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, we knew
that.
who she was as a person before we knew she was queer, and that's huge.
Just normalize that. Normalize all relationships being normal. Like when you make it, I love representation, but there is also I've seen representation that's negative, where it's like, oh, they're the gay character or they're the black character. It's like, no, they're a character. They just happen to be black or gay or transgender or have a special need, whatever. Just make people, and you can give them different traits. I thought this book did a great job at that. Also, Radka and Ren are both characters of color. Not brought up. They're just characters. And it's not marginalizing that character of color. It's also not ignoring that character of color. It's just, this is what they are. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Veronica Fish and Andy Fish really crushed the art. I thought it was great. I know you mentioned that Jessa was floating with hearts and she can be very cartoony when need be, but the art style does the occult stuff very, very well. All the magic stuff looked... You could very well see there were different influences, different culture influences on each different, not only mythical beast, but also like magical item, which was really cool. Really well done art.
I loved it. I love the whole thing. I love the occult stuff in these books, and I loved how it was juxtaposed with like the cottagecore stuff, and it was very colorful and pretty. It was great. Big fan. Big fan.
I also love that like Salem's a smart talking cat again.
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
Normalize Salem being a talking cat. Big fan. Love it. Love it. Okay. Let's jump right. I'm very happy. I definitely recommend this book. It's on Comixology. Check it out. It's in the Archie universe. It's connected. This book does have a brief thing at the end where it does connect to the Archie universe with its own thing. It was cute. I read through it real fast. It is what it is. But yeah, check it out.
Greendale, Riverdale, they're kind of like mirrors of each other, which is interesting.
Yes, they are. Like Springfield and
Shelbyville.
That's exactly right. So,
because like Riverdale has Pop's chocolate shop, and this has Mama's
malts.
Yeah.
So check this book out. We both recommend it, and let's jump right to the outro and see what we're reading next week. And that is the podcast this week, John. Fun time reading Sabrina, our second of 3 books for Spookvember.
It's spooky time.
It's spooky times. The last book we're going to read for Spookvember is another Archie book, and it's called Blossoms 666, created by Cullen Bunn and Laura Braga. Cullen Bunn is our writer. Lauren Braga, Matt Herms, and Jack Morelli are our artists. This book, I'm going to read the description because I love it so much. Cheryl and Jason Blossom are a pair of seemingly normal kids in Riverdale. They're wealthy, popular, and likable, but they also harbor a deep, dark secret. One of the Blossom twins is the Antichrist. Both want the title, and no one in Riverdale is safe during their competition. This collects Blossoms 666, 1 through 5. So the Blossom twins compete to be the Antichrist. What?
Love that they don't know which one is the Antichrist.
It's so funny. I'm very excited to read this book. I didn't care about it before I read that description. Now I'm very, very excited. So we'll see how this goes. But I hope that they have some Sabrina representation in this book too coming up, because I love Sabrina. I love how. Did you notice that her spells always rhyme?
I did. I
thought that was cute, and I wonder, like, obviously magic isn't. There's no proof that it's real or anything like that. But like, you got to imagine, like, is it everything that they say is, if it rhymes, it's a spell? Because then, like, could anybody do that? Or do you have to have like magical blood or something? I don't know. Like what would it sound like? Could anyone just make a rhyme and then that makes a spell? I don't know. That'd be fun.
I don't know.
What if
let's
we tried
see.
it as a joke?
To quell this hunger, I would like a cheeseburger.
Oof.
Oh my god.
What?
Oh my
Did it work?
god. I have a cheeseburger. And wait,
You gotta.
it's a double. We did it.
Oh my god.
We did it.
That's a slant rhyme too. All right. I'm trying. Hold on. Okay. I love who I am, though I feel like a louse. So please, just give me a mouse.
You said a mouse?
No, I meant to say house. Oh, God, no, I've been turned into a mouse. Oh, no.
Think. Oh, okay.
Please help
me. It's getting late. The hour is nigh. That's the podcast this week. Goodbye. You can follow us on Twitter at Talkin' Trades. Follow Jeremy on Twitter at LizardKing27. You can find John on Twitter at Maesterlaka, Maesterlaka. And for this and other projects from Matt, please check out Facebook at Matt Spina Music. And remember, we're not experts, we're fans.